"I think that might be a cow over there," my father said. He said something else after that, but I had closed my eyes and drifted off. I was 5 years old, in the front seat of the family station wagon. My head rested in my mother's lap, and my feet were stretched across my father's legs as he drove. Kids could ride that way in the late 60s and early 70s. No airbags, seatbelts optional. It was so comfortable, like a 60-mile-an-hour bed. I loved going out for Sunday drives, watching the trees flash by outside the car. But this wasn't a Sunday drive. We were moving. Though my father worked as a stockbroker in San Francisco while we lived in Mill Valley, he never liked the job. And at some point, he disliked it so much that he couldn't continue. When I was 4, he started to get a small yearly inheritance from my grandfather's estate. And as that money accumulated, he decided that we would leave Mill Valley and move back to Idaho. Idaho had a good case. Not only was it where the Hemingway family homestead was located, but my mother had been born there too, in Pocatello. My parents bought a place in Ketchum, right near where my grandfather had lived, and packed up the car and left Mill Valley. I was old enough to know we were moving, but young enough that I didn't really understand what it meant. I walked a meaningful circle around my room and then waved goodbye to the house. For the beginning of the drive, my father told us facts about Idaho. He seemed to have a limitless supply of facts. It had become a state in 1890, only a few years before his father was born. It was nicknamed the Gem State. It was shaped like a rifle, stood up on its stalk. I dozed off in the car and woke to the sound of my parents shouting at each other. "Things will be better for her there," my father said. "Unless they're worse," my mother said. They were fighting about Muffet, and whether the move would bring her back into line or send her spinning further out into orbit. My mother was needling and criticizing, and my dad was tightening up with anger. In the back seat, both Muffet and Margaux were ominously silent. I pulled my blanket around me. It was the same one that had been with me in my crib, tattered down to almost nothing, but still soft, with a ribbon of satin trim. It was blue, which was probably because my parents were hoping for a boy, but it was mine. Even that's an understatement. It was me, as much a part of me as a limb or organ. I loved it. I couldn't exist without it. And then, suddenly, the fight accelerated and my dad snapped. His face went beet red. He grabbed my blanket and threw it out the window of the moving car. I went rigid with shock. What had I done to deserve this punishment? My mother screamed for him to stop the car, to turn around and go get it, and he narrowed his eyes and raised his hand and said that he couldn't be responsible for what would happen if she said even one more word. There was no screaming now. The car was dead silent. I pulled my legs up close to my body and felt all the air go out of me. For miles, I prayed that my dad would come to his senses, that he would turn around and go back for it. But he didn't. I cried as quietly as I could, all the way to Idaho. I don't even remember arriving there, because I still felt like I was back in the spot where I had been tossed out the window. Those first weeks in Idaho, my mother spent hours calling back to San Francisco, trying to find a store that sold that same blanket. I slept uneasily at best. Then one night a package came in the mail. "Look," my mother said. She reached her hand into the envelope and took out a blue blanket. I couldn't run fast enough to hold it. "It's the same one," my mother said. But when I smelled it, I shook my head. It was new, harsh, not comforting, almost chemical. "No," I said. I buried my face in my hands. I was even more inconsolable now. But I held out a shred of